Thank you so much, Pixelberry Studios and the Play Choices social media team for partnering with me for this stream. I appreciate it very, very much. Oh, if it costs 30 diamonds, I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I'm ready. Oh, no, I don't know if I'm ready for that. Oh my gosh. Ah! And yes, as mentioned, we are partnered with Choices for these lovely streams. They provided me the fabulous artwork that you see on the screen. And you can download Choices for free right now on the Google Play Store at that link right there in the chat. It'll come up again at least a couple times before the end of this stream. If I have not convinced you that you need to be playing Choices, I don't know what else I can do. I just don't. Oh, there's 2 diamond seeds? Oh, Lord. Okay. Okay. Oh, y'all, don't make me nervous. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's easy to do that. Don't. Don't start making me nervous. Me too. Imagine someone names the captain Pixelberry Studios. That would be fun. I want to see who did it, if they did. I want to see who did it. Hey, Eric. And what's up, everybody? Thank you so much for coming to join. If you've never been to this channel before, I am MartianKat. This is a game called Choices. We're playing the story called Shipwrecked. I really enjoyed our Nightbound stream on Thursday. That was great. Getting to play Lady Smoke and getting to watch a pixie, like a drunken pixie contest. That was just too funny. I was cracking up. A certain somebody showed up in the scene for a cameo that I was not expecting. No spoilers. We're not going to say who it was, but we were very surprised. I did an absolutely horrible French accent. I will not be doing that again. I don't like to do, you know, really bad accents just because, you know, I kind of feel like it's, you know, insulting. So I try not to do it. But yeah, I was like, oh no, this certain character kind of needed it.
Oh dear, now I shall have to create more Martians!
Welcome! You thought it was good? Okay then. Today I was watching an episode of a show on you know, I was watching a streaming show, and there was a couple of gals who have English accents. I'm working on it, Brandon. I'm not confident enough to do it in public yet. I'm working on it. One of these days, I will be confident enough to do an English accent on stream. But I don't want it to just, you know, sound really posh and all that stuff, because it's like, that's not fair. That's not right. It's like, I can't do that. That's not right. So wrong. And for the folks that have been reading the royal finale, how are you feeling about the story so far? Don't spoil her, but how are you feeling about the story so far? Yeah, you know, Not every story is for everyone, and we know that. We all know that. We all know that. Yeah, I've been enjoying it. The reveals have been pretty cool, so, for me. Thanks, Fish. I'm digging the intrigue. That's what I like. I love Brandon, please. Yes. We know all about it. Let's see. Also, I want the MC to have another kid. Oh, what? No. But I'm a little biased. I won't even we won't talk about that. That's like a whole other discussion for a whole other day. And I've been kind of thinking I need to do another like an Instagram Q&A where I, answer questions and stuff on video. If you guys would be interested in that, let me know, because I will be happy to do it. Just at random, I did like a Q&A thing on Instagram. It was a while back, but yeah, it was fun. Oh no, bad jokes are... Oh no, come on now. Bad jokes go with everything. Everything. Bad jokes go with everything. There's never a bad time for a bad joke. See? Eric knows. Eric knows. Oh, goodness. Let's see. Let's see what we got. You love me anyway. That's okay. That's okay. Why do skeletons stay so calm? Because nothing gets under their skin. Oh. Oh, jeez. Come on, it was funny. MA brought up a good point. Pro tip, subscriptions purchased or gifted on Twitch will earn you points on Google Play if you're on Android. You can use those Play points to buy vouchers for cool apps like Choices. It is so true. It is so true. MA, thank you for gifting some subs to Drolly. Oh, wait a minute. What? You gave one to Brandon? Oh man, can we rescind that? Can we take that back? Oh, I'm just kidding. We are super close. We hit our first goal of 30 sub points. So, OMGs for that. And yes, and and along with, and also to add to MA's point, that anytime if you're on Android, because I don't have an iPhone, I don't know how it works in the App Store over there, but I know on in the Play Store, any purchases that you make, any subscriptions that you have to apps, where you're like paying monthly fees and stuff, those points add up, and then they also have sweet coupons and stuff for you to get discounts on buying diamonds and keys and all that fabulous stuff. Highly recommend. It's so good. It's such a great deal. Making those purchases here and there supports the good folks over at Pixelberry Studios and allows them to keep making all this fabulous content. Support, support, and support. And if you can't do that, tell other people to go and grab choices. And, you know, the more folks download it, the more folks are reading it, the more they want to create content, and, you know, we get to keep reading and enjoying all this, all of our community stuff. You know what I mean? What do you think? I think we should jump in. I think we should jump into it. This is Chapter 4, Making Camp. Again, thank you, Pixelberry Studios and Play Choice's social media team for partnering with me for this stream. I am going to enjoy embarrassing myself playing the naughty bits in this thing. We're gonna do this. It's called Making Camp. Let's go. The panther prowls toward you, growling menacingly. Its movements are completely silenced, yellow eyes never leaving you. Woo! That's scary! And Mariah says, "Oh no!" And you begin to take a step back, but Gilligan squeezes your shoulder tighter, stilling you. His voice is a whisper at your ear. "If we run, it'll chase us, and we'll be done for." And the Panthers goes grrr in the distance. Gilligan carefully unsheathes the diving knife at his thigh and takes a cautious step forward, placing himself between you and the panther. It's Gilligan's knife. Wait! Mariah's like, "What are you doing?" Thank you, Shoot Chick. At your raised voice, the panther roars and takes a swipe in your direction. It's like, rawr! Gilligan says, "You need me to spell it out for you? I'm going to kill it before it kills us." And Mariah says, You can't kill it! For acting on instinct? Gilligan says, "If you think I'm just going to lie down and be a meal." She says, "That doesn't make it right." And the panther is like looking at these two confused, like, what is happening? You're supposed to be scared and looking at me. The panther releases a low rumble as it glares at you with its yellow eyes. And Gilligan says, "Do you have a better idea?" And Mariah says, "We need to scare it away. If we stand our ground and look big, we can convince it that we're the predators." The panther's grrr. The panther drops its head, ready to pounce. Gilligan says, "Whatever you were doing, we need to hurry." Mariah says, "Quick! Let me climb on your shoulders. We'll tower over it. Pure intimidation." Without making any sudden movements, you climb onto Gilligan's shoulders and rest your thighs on his broad shoulders. His hands grip your legs to steady you, the warmth of them being both disarming and comforting. "And our bond has increased." And Gilligan says, "You think we're big and scary enough?" Mariah says, "I hope so." The panther pauses momentarily, taken aback by your bigger form. And then its face twists in anger, and it bares its teeth at you. It shifts its haunches rapidly, like it's about to strike. Gilligan says, "Damn it, it's not working." And Mariah says, "Quick! Scream as loud as you can!" And she does. She's like, "Ah!" And Gilligan's like, "Rah!" If that's not enough to freak it out and make it want to run, you know. And the panther shirks back in the branches as you and Gilligan shout. You're waving your arms probably like maniacs, and it flees into the safety of the greenery. Panther's like, "I'm out of here. Y'all are nuts." Once you're sure the panther is gone, Gilligan helps you down from his shoulders, and then you wrap him in a tight embrace. Mariah says, "We did it! We actually survived!" And Gilligan pauses for a moment before returning the hug. He pats your back awkwardly as you release him. And Mariah says, "Told you we didn't have to kill it!" And he says, "Is this really the time for a told you so?" And she says, "It's always the time when I'm right." You look at where the panther was and then back to Gilligan's knife. You really would have killed that beautiful animal? Yes, it's my job to keep you safe. He twirls his knife in his hand, which includes teaching you how to use this too. You really think that's necessary? She asks. And he says, we don't know what else lurks in the jungle. And I can't guarantee I'll always be around to save you. And you meet his eyes, a mix of concern brewing within their depths. Let me show you a few things, teach you to hold your ground. Sparring with Gilligan will come in handy against future predators, and it'll increase your survival bond. Okay, let's do it. Learn to fight with Gilligan. And Mariah says, you raise a good point. I should be better prepared in case we get into danger like that again. He says, let's find somewhere we'll have more room. You follow Gilligan through the thicket of trees until you come upon a small clearing. This'll do. Have you ever used a knife before? Does a butter knife count? Also, we didn't get to pet a panther. We didn't get a pet panther, sad panda face, Lady Gay says. Eric earlier was like, leave the panther alone. Yes. And Gilligan says, only if you're fighting toast. Gilligan looks around and then leans down to pick up a stick that's about the same size as his diving knife. Here, let's use this for practice for now. My practice weapon, but it's so small. It's like you don't trust me, Gilligan. This is damn right. I don't want any accidental flesh wounds today. It's like, yeah, but scars are sexy. Oh, sorry. No, she didn't say that. I was thinking it. You take the stick from him and slash the air with it a few times. Gilligan says, careful there. It's not a sword. She says, you're right. It's a twig. Well, let's start practicing with your twig. His banter drives me crazy. I love it, Lady K says. I agree. He says, I can teach you the proper stance or a good defensive move, your choice. Now, Mariah is not a fighter, so I'm going to say the defensive move. Mariah says, show me what you got. Gilligan grins, moving to stand next to you so you can mirror his movements. Let's say an attacker lunges, comes at you with a paw or a punch. You'll want to stop them and protect your vital spots at the same time, he says. And he drops down into a low fighting stance, waiting for you to do the same. And then, he holds out the knife in front of him with a slightly bent elbow. Your first instinct will be to bring your arm up to protect your face. When you do, turn the knife downward. And he watches Gilligan adjust his grip on the handle so that the blade is now flush with his forearm. And Mariah says, like this? As you bring your arm up in a block to cover your face, you try to turn the twig like he demonstrated, but you drop it. Gilligan says, doesn't do you much good if you lose your weapon. And he says, Mariah says, well, I was trying to distract my enemy. And he says, sure, allow me.
Now I shall have to create more Martians.
His voice growls in your ear as he wraps his strong arms around you. He takes every motion slowly so you can get the hang of it. Moving as one, the two of you attack an invisible enemy, and his breath is warm against the back of your neck. Just make sure the sharp end is pointed toward the bad guy, Rambo. You turn your head slightly to look at him sidelong, his face mere inches from yours. Gilligan's eyes flicker to your lips for a tense moment, but he suddenly clears his throat and steps away from you. Practice makes perfect. He sheathes his knife and then picks up a stick for himself. He cocks an eyebrow in challenge. Let's see what you got, he says. And Mariah says, more than you bargained for, I bet. You and Gilligan start to circle each other, studying each other carefully. And he says, a lot of talk, but not much action. Your eyes narrow. You lunge forward, trying to poke his right arm with your stick. But he easily sidesteps you and sweeps out his leg to try and trip you. Sweep the leg. So what do? Don't shove him, you trip him with the stick. And you hit his leg with your stick, knocking him off balance, but he snakes an arm around your waist, carrying you to the ground with him. Whoa! You fly flat on your back while Gilligan hovers over you, pinning you to the ground with a hand locked around each of your wrists. And he says, nice try. You can feel the pounding of Gilligan's heart as he presses down against you, the muscles in his arms straining on either side of you. Mariah says, all part of my plan. A smile twitches on his lips, but he quickly suppresses it and stands before helping you to your feet. If you're gonna trip someone, dodge their grab too. She says, good to know. You get back into your stance, feeling a little more confident. Gilligan swipes at your middle, forcing you to jump back. Mariah says, missed me. You lash out with your own stick, trying to catch him off guard, but Gilligan grabs your outstretched arm with his free hand and pulls you toward him. And he says, got you. He locks your body against his, wedging your weapon between the two of you and rendering it useless. Lady K. He says, what's your next move, Doc? You know what? I'm going to duck under his arm. You duck underneath his arm and attempt to slip out of his grip, but he spins you around, pinning you to him. And he says, you're not getting away so easily. And she says, I haven't exhausted all of my options yet. And you twist your shoulders, trying to escape, but Gilligan chuckles and holds you tighter. But she says, on second thought, I'm pretty comfortable right here. He says, well, if you wanted out, you should have gone for my feet or another sensitive spot. That would have loosened my grip, and then you could have escaped. With a smirk, you raise your foot to bring it down on his, but he quickly moves it out of the way. He says, he laughs and he says, saw that coming a mile away. I was just testing your reflexes. They pass. Gilligan rolls his eyes at you, finally letting you go and stepping away. She says, I think we've earned a break now. And the two of you walk back to the waterfall and sit on its bank, dipping your feet into the cool water. You fill one of the beakers and take a long, deep drink. Gilligan says, that move with the panther back there was risky. How'd you know it would work? And she says, to be fair, it was no riskier than hand-to-hand combat with an apex predator. But to answer your question, I've spent the last 10 years studying animals and plants in their natural ecosystems. It comes with the territory. So why'd you agree to the trading? As much as I wish I could, I don't think I could science my way out of every problem. Plus, I wanted to see you in action. I had a feeling you could handle yourself. This is, well, what made you think that? And Mariah says, well, you've already saved me a few times. And you look at him sheepishly, remembering the feeling of his arms around you as he rescued you from drowning. Mariah says, anyone willing to save a stranger is probably used to protecting people. I trusted that you knew what you were doing. Gilligan turns to look at you. After a moment, he reaches out to brush a stray leaf out of your hair. Gilligan says, I haven't really had anyone I've wanted to protect in a while. His fingers linger against your cheek as he holds your gaze. And Mariah says, Gilligan? Just as you're sure he's about to do more, he drops his hand and busies himself with the water. Anyway, hope you don't need them, but at least you're ready if you do. And as the tension of the moment dissipates, you stand up and brush yourself off. Mariah says, we should probably take some water back to the beach. You retrieve the beakers from your bag and then focus on filling them with fresh water. And he says, you sure you don't want to argue that we need to do something else first? And Mariah says, already won that battle a few hours ago. Or did you forget why we stayed around the waterfall? And he says, as if I could forget the reason. And his darkened gaze sends you back to that kiss on top of the waterfall. This is jumping off the waterfall comes to mind. And his eyes dip down to your lips and your breath catches in your throat. He says, but I wouldn't say you won earlier. She says, well, what would you call it then? Actually agreeing for once. You roll your eyes and then return your attention to the beakers. Gilligan changes back into his clothes and then helps you collect as much water as you can hold. This should be good enough for now. We need to return to the beach before it gets dark. After trekking through the jungle, you and Gilligan return to the beach with your collection of fresh water. Lady K says, I swear this book is adorable. I agree, it is. I really like the interplay between our main character and the captain. You know, it's just kind of that will they, won't they, you know, that I really like. And he says, we've got water, but we still need food, fire, and shelter. And Mariah says, you're the survival expert here. What's our priority? Food's tempting, but it's getting dark, and we need fire for when the sun goes down. And Mariah says, roger that. I'll go fetch us some wood. Gilligan makes himself busy at the beach, and you head to the jungle's edge, picking up all the dry brush and sticks you can hold. And it's a fallen branch, which will do nicely. Mariah says, these rocks might help for a pit, too. Should keep the fire contained. As you move through some palms to reach the rocks, the glint of metal in the sunlight catches your eye. A knife? How did this get here? You're thinking. You're just about to take a step closer when you hear a branch snap behind you, and you whirl toward the noise, but its source is hidden in the brush. See, Shuchik says, it's very adorable, which makes me nervous of what's going to happen. Really? What do you think is going to happen? Let's talk about the theories, y'all. What do you think is going to happen? Mariah says, Mariah's thinking, I hope it's not another panther. And Mariah's thinking she should scare the animal away. Go away! Shoo! I don't want to hurt you! And you hold your breath, listening carefully for any sign of movement. And then suddenly, a rabbit darts out of the underbrush and hops past you. Oh, it's a bunny. So cute. Oh, look at it! It's adorable! It's so stinking cute, I can't take it. Mariah says, phew, it's just a bunny. I know, I'm kind of thinking that there are people on this island because that knife didn't belong to either Gilligan or Mariah. So who did it belong to? Because it sure didn't belong to that rabbit. There has to be more people on this island. And you turn back to investigate the blade you saw earlier, but it's not there. And Mariah says, I could have sworn it was right here. Maybe I just imagined it. Like, no dear, you didn't. After a closer inspection of the area, it turns up nothing. You shrug and carry the wood and rocks back to Gilligan at the beach. He says, you took your sweet time. She says, I thought I saw a knife or something, but I must have been wrong. And Gilligan says, I wouldn't be surprised. Could have been from the people who used to come here years ago. She says, maybe. And as your mind is distracted, Gilligan organizes your findings around the fire pit he's already dug in the sand. And you stand back and admire his handiwork. Now we've got everything for the fire pit except for the actual fire. And he says, with the sun so low, our best bet is a friction fire unless you've got flint. And she says, yeah, let me just pull some out of my back pocket. And Gilligan says, you're a science girl, it was worth an ask. And he wraps a frayed piece of rope around a small stick and then sandwiches it between 2 carved out pieces of wood. We'll take turns pulling on the ends of the rope as fast as we can to get the flame started. And Mariah says, you realize I know how friction creates heat, and in turn fire. It's basic physics. So he says, then this should be quick. We just need to work together. And you pull your end of the rope, but then Gilligan tugs his, and it shifts back and forth between you, spinning the stick in place. Gilligan says, we need more speed. So, we need to, match his speed. You watch Gilligan carefully when he pulls. You give slack. When he gives slack, you pull. The wood starts to smoke. And Gilligan says, almost there. You work completely in sync for a few more minutes until you get an ember. And Mariah's just smiling and she's so proud and says, it's working! He says, quick, we need to blow on it. You and Gilligan both lean down to blow on the faint spark. Your foreheads nearly touch as the kindling ignites. Mariah says, fire! We did it! And you look over at Gilligan, a hint of a smile playing across his lips. And he says, we made a pretty good team, huh? And she says, wow! An actual compliment from Captain Gilligan? No sarcasm detected? He says, keep it up and there will be. Gilligan stokes the fire into a small inferno and then looks over at the beakers of water. He says, we're going to need more containers to put food and things in. And she says, we got plenty of large boxes, but not much in the way of smaller things. With deft hands, Gilligan takes some fallen palm fronds and folds and twists them into a bowl, complete with a few rose-like flowers. Oh, that's pretty. And Mariah says, wow! I never took you for someone who could weave so intricately. And Gilligan says, I'm a man of many talents. Mariah says, do you think one will be enough, though? Doesn't matter, I don't have time to make more. I need to rig up a hammock before dark, otherwise we're sleeping on the ground. She says, well, I feel bad that you're doing all this work. He says, I could spare the time to teach you how to weave bowls, and then I could focus on the hammock while you make more. Hell, make over this entire camp if you want to. We're going to be here a while. Might as well make it comfortable. And you look around the beach and imagine what you could do with your supplies, or your limited supplies. Let's see. Looks like we got a nice little hammock going and a fire. It's looking real cozy. And before I take this scene, I will be right back. All right, we're back. So let's help Gilligan put the camp together, I think. Help Gilligan with the camp to spend some special time together and strengthen your survival bond. Absolutely! You'll even unlock this upgraded base camp to use for the rest of the book. Oh, right. Make this a home away from home. Let us do it. Mariah says, I'm a fast learner. He says, and so humble, too. Gilligan picks up one of the palm fronds and expertly separates it into 2 halves along with the center stalk, and he hands you one. And so he says, so first, you want to lay it out flat in front of you like this. And you lay your side of the frond down on the sand like he showed you, and the tips of the leaves are facing away from you. How good are you at braiding? I could use a refresher. Gilligan sits behind you and places a palm frond on your lap, and he isolates 3 leaves and points them toward you. He says, it's pretty easy. Take 3 strands, work the outside ones to the middle. You'll alternate which side you pull from. And his arms surround you as he demonstrates, his chest pressed against your back, and then he undoes his work to let you try. She says, this isn't as difficult as I thought. But just as you say that, 1 leaf slips out of your hand, undoing some of your work. And then she frowns and says, never mind. He says, relax. It takes time to perfect. And he helps guide your hands, twining the leaves with his assistance until you're able to do it by yourself. Okay, what next? For the bowls, you'll basically make it a giant wraparound braid, and then take the end leaf and use it with the next 2 leaves to start another braid, and you'll do that until you reach the end and tie them off. Mariah says, I can do that. He says, well, you know where to find me if you have problems. It's like, oh yes, I know exactly where to find you. And you get to work on the bowls as Gilligan starts on the hammock, and you have to stop and start again a few times, but eventually you have the makings of a bowl. And Gilligan says, damn, you sure you haven't done this before? And she says, it's nothing compared to that hammock. I mean, look at it! He says, I'm not done yet. Make sure to tie those knots tight on the bowls, otherwise they'll never hold. And Mariah says, like this? And he takes the bowl from you and examines it closer. Great. Now make about 10 more. And she says, such a taskmaster. You start another bowl while Gilligan returns to the hammock, weaving bits of tattered sail into the palm frond. When your hands start to ache, you stretch and gather up gather up the scraps of fabric he's discarded, and you tie some around pieces of driftwood and place them in the sand around the beach. And he says, what are you doing over there? And she says, you said to give the camp a makeover, so that's what I'm doing. Besides, if anyone happens to sail by, they're more likely to notice our camp. It is! I love their chemistry. I totally agree with you, Shoe Chick. I had to take a sip of water. Okay. You continue your work, using a rock to hammer the rest of your makeshift flags into the ground. Look at that, we got some flags, just in case folks pop by. It's like, please save us, please save us. And Mariah says, it's starting to come together. He says, it still needs a name. And Mariah says, well, let's call it... the name of your camp is Shipwrecked. Let's call it Shipwrecked. Well, let's see. Let's call it... I'm gonna say Hope Cove. Why not? I think it sounds cute. He says, sure, why not? Hope Cove it is. Mariah says, I declare this camp Hope Cove open. You went with Camp Hell, very optimistic. Come on. I think Mariah is like absolutely the optimist between the two of them, you know? She's that one thinking, oh, we're gonna be rescued. Somebody's gonna come and find us. I know it. I just know it. And then, you know, he's the one that's just like, no, we're gonna have to stay here forever eating, you know, coconuts and drinking salt water. You know. As Gilligan finishes up the hammock, you gather whatever supplies you can to make Hope Cove homey. You named yours Stranded Isle. I like it. Naming things, I'm actually very good at. I like to name stuff, characters, pets, places. I just like to name things, especially in the context of a story. And you eye some of your extra supplies and palm fronds, and Mariah's thinking, maybe I can weave Gilligan something from this, prove how good I am at braiding. Shark bait. Oh yeah, it wasn't automatically made into camp shark bait. Have to fix it. Yeah. Let's see. I think Gilligan would appreciate a bracelet. You cut a small piece of a palm frond on a rock and weave it into an intricate bracelet, and you head over to Gilligan as he ties off the excess rope securing the hammock. And Mariah says, hey, I have something for you. Close your eyes and hold out your hand. And he says, nice try. And she says, I guess you don't want your gift then. His eyes narrow before he finally relents, and he closes his eyes and holds out one of his hands, and you slip the bracelet on him, your fingers lingering over the exposed skin at his wrist. And he opens his eyes after you've placed it on him, looking down at it in surprise. You made this for me? She says, you lost most of your stuff in the storm. I thought you'd like something new. And he twirls the bracelet around his wrist, a small smile on his lips. And he says, it's great and unexpected, thank you. You return his smile, suddenly feeling a little shy, and the two of you look around at the newly completed camp. And he says, I guess for now it's home sweet home. And Mariah says, I think you mean home sweet Hope Cove. You know, I think we did a pretty good job. Oh, that's cool. You can hear like the fire crackling and stuff. That's a nice little touch. As night falls, you both collapse around your new fire pit and relax a little. And Mariah says, I am completely spent. Gilligan says, means you worked hard today. You both stare into the crackling fire for a few moments. And she says, as long as I don't think much about it, this feels just like camping. Though I haven't been in years, yeah. And Gilligan says, where was your favorite place to camp? And Mariah says, I always enjoyed camping. Up in the mountains with the cool, crisp air. Yeah. A bit different than the hot, humid air of these mountains. Pretty much the opposite. Up in the mountains, you can camp for a week and not see another person. He says, sorry to ruin that for you. And she says, don't be, you haven't. Your cheeks warm and not from the fire, as Gilligan holds your gaze and you quickly look away and poke the fire with some driftwood. And she says, what about you? You must have some camping stories. And he says, well, my family didn't have much, so we did a lot of beach camping instead of big vacations. My parents had this knack for making ordinary things feel special, no matter how many times we'd been to that beach. And Mariah says, that's so sweet. What kinds of things? And he says, we'd make a fire like this and grill pineapples, papayas, bananas, whatever fruit we could find. And Mariah says, sounds like a perfect summer night to me. And he says, it's not complete without a little music. Gilligan retrieves his rescued ukulele from his bag. And so she says, do I finally get that concert? You did promise to serenade me. Gilligan says, and I keep my promises. He starts to strum out a melody on the ukulele, and you close your eyes and enjoy the soft music, mixing with the steady crash of the waves. Mariah says, you're pretty good at this. And he says, I'm alright, nothing to brag about. Gilligan starts to sing with a certain gentleness to his voice you've never heard before. Lyrics say, out on the ocean waves, across the big blue sea, I found my love waiting for me. And he begins to switch between English and another language you're unfamiliar with. You realize his eyes have never left you as he sings. And the fire plays off his face. Its crackles harmonizing with his voice, while his calloused fingers pluck each chord. And Mariah says, Gilligan, I've never heard something so beautiful before. And your eyes start to droop from exhaustion as his song comes to a close. He puts the ukulele away and lets out a big yawn. And he says, we should get some rest. Tomorrow we'll need to scavenge for food. Go ahead and take the hammock. I was only able to make the one before losing the light. Mariah says, well, where are you going to sleep then? And he says, well, I can rough it in the sand. It wouldn't be the first time. And she says, well, if you're sure, I guess then, good night. And you climb into the hammock and then look back at Gilligan laying next to the fire, using his pack as a pillow. And he shifts in place, trying to get comfortable. Let's see, Mariah's thinking, maybe I should have invited him. I should invite him to share the hammock with me. We could both fit, and if we don't mind sleeping a little bit snuggled up. Invite him to sleep with you. Absolutely. Mariah says, Gilligan, you don't look comfortable. Come join me in the hammock. It's fine. The bag's alright as a pillow. Stop being such a tough guy for once, I insist. Besides... Ooh. Both options are nice. I'm gonna go with you should reap the rewards of what you made. You spent most of the afternoon weaving sail pieces with palm fronds to make this. You should enjoy it. And he says, well, does that mean I could sleep in it alone? Yes? And Mariah says, it means I'm willing to share. There's enough room for the two of us. And he thinks for a moment before gently smirking at you and says, alright then, twist my arm about it. You hold the sides open so that Gilligan can climb in after you, and both of you lay on your backs with your arms awkwardly squished up against each other. And Mariah says, if you shift your hand like that, and he says, watch my throat! And you try to get comfortable for a few minutes, but wind up just as squished as before. And Mariah says, so maybe there's not as much room as I thought. And he says, if we want to make this work, we're going to have to lay on our sides. That is, if you don't mind getting closer. And his lips kink to one side, and all you can think about is his skin pressed against yours. We should definitely do that, but I want to be the... the little spoon or the big spoon? The spork, Chingo says. Oh my gosh. Let's go with the big spoon. I'm always the big spoon. And he says, yeah, you're always the big spoon when you're sharing a hammock on a deserted island with a man you just met. And she says, all signs point to yes. Gilligan chuckles as you both turn over on your sides, his back pressed against your chest, and you sling an arm over his waist as the other snakes beneath his head like a pillow. You're silent for a while, unsure of what to say, and you can hear Gilligan's breathing start to slow. Mariah says, "Sleep well." And his arm covers your own, drawing you closer against him, and you melt into the embrace, resting your cheek against his shoulder. And he says, "You too." His arms are a comfort around you. The steady rhythm of his breathing combined with the crashing of the waves against the shore relaxes you, and you focus on the gentle sway of the hammock and fall into a deep, peaceful sleep. And the next morning, sunlight streams down onto the beach. Eyes still shut tight against the bright light, you roll over. But you stop when you realize Gilligan's back remains tightly pressed against your body, and he drowsily stirs awake. Mariah says, "Good morning." He says, "Morning." His gaze watches you for a lingering moment, and then he sleepily rolls over and kisses you deeply. And Mariah is shocked by this. And he parts your lips with his tongue, and the shiver runs down your spine. And Gilligan whispers, or says, "Mariah." He carefully shifts. He carefully shifts in the hammock, so he's on top of you, and you grab his shirt and drag him back down, capturing his lips with yours. Your hand snakes down his back until you feel his firm in your grasp, and he moans, and his breath is hot against your skin. Ooh. Why not? We're gonna remove my top. And you break away from Gilligan's lips for a moment to rip your top off, tossing it into the sand. It's so hot out here. And his breath catches as he drinks your bare chest in. Stop! Gilligan says, "Maybe I can help." And he licks a long stripe against your stomach. A jolt of ecstasy shoots through you, and you ache between your legs. Gilligan flashes a mischievous smirk before his mouth captures your breast, and your nipple stands on end as his tongue swirls around. And Mariah says, "Yes, please." And his lips crash down on yours again, and your bodies tangle together, building to a new crescendo. Your kisses come faster, more desperate, and you writhe against the rocking hammock, begging for Gilligan to be closer. And Mariah says, "I need..." And he fingers the waistband of your underwear, about to respond, when the hammock tilts, casting you and Gilligan onto the ground. Yes! That is my kind of ending! That is hysterical! Even Jingo laughed at that! Oh gosh, that was great. I love that. This is so like romantic comedy stuff right here. You know, I could just see that. You know, it's just like, all right, you know, everything is getting all hot and heavy, and you're thinking, all right, let's just go, and all of a sudden, bam, disaster strikes. Oh, y'all need to stop. Let me have my moment of laughter. Let me have it. I am way too happy at their disaster. It's like, oh, y'all couldn't do that? Oh well. Darn. Chick is like, oh my god, this is steamy. And MA says, saved by gravity. Eric says, all I can think is that they haven't brushed their teeth in a few days. Exactly right. Well, it's like you're out there, you know what, eating random fruits and what, fish or something that you caught. That can't make for, you know, you're not minty fresh at that point, you know. Lady K is like, you are way too happy. I thought it was hysterical. That was well done. Well done. And Mariah says, oops, maybe that's a sign. And Gilligan says, yeah, we should get a move on for the day. We're burning daylight. And you feel your cheeks warm and ignore Gilligan as you put your shirt back on. What's even on today's agenda? And he says, how hungry are you, Doc? And your stomach betrays you, growling loudly. It's like, at the thought of food. That's why it wasn't the full 30 diamonds, MA says. I know, right? That's a movie moment if I've ever seen one, Shoe Chick says. Exactly! That was totally what I was thinking. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like, you know... Yeah! It's like... I kind of... I would say I kind of feel like maybe a Drew Barrymore rom-com going on, you know, where it's like, okay, everything is going really great, and then all of a sudden she trips and falls, you know, or her heel breaks. That's great. It's funny. Mariah says, I can eat. And he says, that's what I thought. And he tosses your bag at you, and it lands in the sand with a thud. And he says, grab your stuff and follow me. We won't survive without food. And that was the end of chapter 4. I say all those diamond scenes were worth it. I'm so glad I took that scene because that was hysterical. It was like just saucy enough. This is rom-com meets choices. Exactly. Exactly. Let's see. So the next one is going to be next Saturday. And it's Castaway Chemistry. Foraging for food has never been this sweet or intimate. Oh, shoot. Oh, boy. That could be exciting, I guess. Oh my gosh. Alright.